Hello, everybody. Today we'll talk about the roles of the Kohanim, what their what Hashem's expectation was of them. So we already spoke about the blessing, but the blessing adds to helping them with the other two tasks that are their main tasks. So the Kohanim had two main tasks. The first was to educate and teach halacha in Israel, as it is written in Malachi, one of the last verses of Malachi. For the Kohen's lips safeguard knowledge, and Torah is sought from his mouth. And the Talmud learned from that verse. There's actually quite a few books that have explanations of exactly what the Talmud said about all these verses. So about this verse specifically, it says if you have a teacher that is like a malach, because that's the second part of the verse, like an angel, then you should learn from him. But if not, you should not learn from him. But that's not the simple meaning of the verse, which is that every Kohen was supposed to have the knowledge of the Torah in order to teach it. And the second was to be messengers of chesed and peace, like Aaron a Kohen, whose disciples were taught to love peace and pursue peace, love thy fellow creatures and bring them closer to Torah. So the Talmud tells us that there's a few things that he did. First of all, in terms of bring them closer to Torah, he would greet everybody with a warm, shalom, and maybe even shake his hands. There's an amazing story about Rav Ari Levine, who refused to accept a pair of warm gloves because he said, "How am I going to feel the warmth of the hand of person I'm shaking?" And so that was Aaron's way of doing it. So he would greet somebody, and the next day, the person, or some other days afterwards, the person would want to do an Avera, and he would say, "Oh, but I will be so embarrassed if Aaron sees me because he obviously cares about me and loves me." We don't know when this did or didn't happen in the desert, but the other example that the rabbis say is that he would come to two people that he heard that they had a fight, and he would say to one, your friend is so upset about what happened. You used to be such good friends, and he's really, really sorry about what happened. And if you can please uh, go and forgive him or ask for his forgiveness. And then he would go to person number two and say the same exact lie. And it was allowed to lie in order for the peace to happen. And that's how he brought people back together. And the same way with husband and wife. And that in his merit, thousands of couples remained together or got back together. Consequently, children were born to them and they named their sons Aaron after them. So that's already in the Talmud. I just wanted to share with you a personal memory that my brother-in-law, sorry, my brother's brother-in-law, his name is Avi Cohen, which is apparently the most common name for a man in Israel. Avram or Avi, and last name Cohen. So this is very similar, Aaron Cohen, but so they interviewed him, and there were like 20 other people. I don't remember which newspaper it was, but it was just so cute that we have this idea of what common names are, and sometimes we can even relate to it. And I think that Avram, as our first forefather, is so meaningful to Jewish people, and especially when all converts follow. When we call them up to the Torah, we say Ben Avraham. So same idea. In order to enable the Kohanim to develop these two basic qualities, wisdom and kindness, the Torah established that the Kohanim would not receive a portion of the land of Israel, and that their livelihood would depend on the produce, offerings, and priestly gifts of the Israelites. There's 24 gifts. A lot of them are mentioned in this week's Parsha, actually, in Parshat Korach, so we'll talk a little bit more on Friday. In that way, the Kohanim would be free to learn Torah, educate the people, and guide them. Since the Israelim, the Israelites, provide them with sustenance, all the people of Israel become partners in the spiritual work of the Kohanim. Due to the fact that they do not own land and do not partake in the competition involved in earning a livelihood, they can more easily develop their love and chesed towards the entire nation. And so it's basically a give and take, meaning they provide us with teaching Torah and with making peace, and we give them the tithe and the other 23 gifts that the Torah commands us to give the Kohanim. And we talked about yesterday about how Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai said that we should continue doing the tithing, even though that we don't have the temple, because the Kohanim still had this amazing role. Last but not least, Ahava, love, is also the basis for Birkat Kohanim. Out of their love to the nation, the Kohanim become worthy emissaries to bless Israel in the name of Hashem. The wording of the bracha is as follows: who sanctified us with the holiness of Aaron and commanded us to bless his people Israel with love. The poskim write that any Kohen who is hated by the congregation or who hates somebody in the congregation or even just one person is forbidden to recite Birkat Kohanim. If he says the words of enmity, he will bring danger upon himself because he's basically lying. I'm going to give the Birkat Kohanim even though I am not loving right now or they're not loving me. Instead, he must eliminate the animosity from his heart or leave the synagogue before Birkat Kohanim, since its main purpose is to bless Israel with love. And last but not least, one of my older friends, he was actually my father's age, but when he retired, he came to learn in our yeshiva. And he asked me all kinds of questions, and one of the questions he asked was, "Why do we say Yasher Koach to the Kohanim after they give the blessing? It's a mitzvah that they're obligated to do. You don't say Yasher Koach to everybody who takes a lulav and esrog or everybody who hears shofar. Obviously, we say Yasher Koach to the person blowing the shofar, but if you started saying Yasher Koach to hundreds of people who fulfill the commandment of hearing the shofar, you'll be there all day." So he asked me, why do we say Yasher Koach to the Kohanim? They're only doing their duty. And the answer that he gave is basically this word love. So because they're doing it with love, which is not in the Torah, it's the way that the Chachamim worded the blessing. That's the reason why we give them a Yasher Koach, because they are giving us this blessing with love, and we should appreciate it and do appreciate it. And so we'll stop here.